So we're going to have a little fun on this one, guys, and just talk about how Navy ships inspire sci-fi designs. Now, a lot of you guys have probably seen Star Wars, right? And when you start looking at those spacecraft in that movie, if you look a little bit closer, they're using model kits to build them, usually based off of, well, World War II ships and aircraft. So there's a lot of just little details all over the place coming from model kits, not just those, but model kits in general. And they were kit bashed together. So Star Wars, when you really kind of take a step back and look at it, it's almost a retelling of World War II, right? The Axis and Allies versus each other, and Empire and rebels and all that fun stuff. There's lots of like air space battles, anyways, but lots of air battles in World War II and ship battles as well. So you got to figure when George Lucas was coming up, he was probably watching TV, and they had all the kind of movies going on with the fights in the air and the fights at sea and stuff like that. All kinds of different things in magazines or whatever the case. And so a lot of that probably inspired him to create his story there. And the ships most certainly did, because obviously a lot of the Star Wars ships were probably kit bashed together from, well, ship kits and so, or ship models. Now, we're going to look at turrets first, but we're going to look at some manuals in a second here. But the main thing is I want to talk about some military stuff, basically. Like when we're looking at these. Now, I was never in the Navy. I didn't serve in the Navy, but I was in the Army. And so there are certain things that military equipment has to have in order for it to be mil spec or military specification, right? These plugs, for example. A lot of times when you look at electrical components from military equipment, they're going to be like oversized in some way, shape, or form. A lot of these are actually EMP shielded, if you didn't know that. So they can be potentially watertight, so on and so forth. Military grade plugs. And so they're a little bit beefier than your normal plug and wires, and it's a little bit more industrial grade, perhaps. And you can see there's all kinds of different kind of shielding and piping they might run through, and there's hydraulic systems and all kinds of other fun stuff for this turret. But turrets are great fun because there are lots of details that you can use on this, and there's lots of things you can draw inspiration from, whether it's little additional supporting brackets or whatever this happens to be in here, right? And then this big belt going around like so. Just cool stuff to look at, guys. Now, what does it all do? I couldn't tell you, but I know there's interesting shapes here. There's interesting forms. There's some interesting kind of technical aspects. Just really good stuff to feel inspired by and maybe even work off of a little bit. So it's all kinds of just little nuanced detail everywhere. Now, let's move on to some other ones. And once again, the shapes continue. There's lots of just great shapes, lots of great details. And you can just do an infinite amount of stuff with this almost. Like it just keeps going and going forever. And you probably start seeing some of this kind of design language, this military industrial kind of design language appears everywhere in Star Wars ships. Like it's everywhere. So now they take the shape design to kind of a bigger level where they're using much more unique shapes in some respects. But a lot of the details on the ships are very much this, right? Like they're not too much different than this, perhaps. And then we got to think about the actual ship itself. I mean, we're just looking at guns right now, basically, or lasers and whatever else we can find here. But the actual ship itself has a lot of intricacies to it as well. And so you can see, there's just hatches and latches and steps and mounting brackets and big gun feeds and stuff. It's just great stuff here to look at. There's like safety stuff, nets and warning labels and random little, I don't know, whatever those things are, little ropes or wires or something. The whole mount here is stabilized, right? So it's like probably on a hydraulic system, I'd have to take a guess, or pneumatic system, maybe, who knows? But it's all elevated slightly so it can balance the whole turret as the ship rocks a little bit, or whatever the case, right? And we keep going. Just really cool designs. More modern stuff, some aluminum shielding, I'm guessing on top of that, maybe steel, who knows? But it's a cool look, and so it could be very much like an imperial type design, and is the way I'm looking at it. But a lot of this could be, let's be honest. So find the images that really kind of tingle your senses, right? Like some of this is just outright amazing looking. It's got really good stuff to it, right? If it's a little bit too bland, you want to kick it out. Like this one here, there's not much to look at here. There's like some detail here, but there's not much. So you want to find the stuff that really piques your interest. Rely off those, right? Now you could always try using Google search and looking for all kinds of stuff and finding real world references, but you might get mixed up with a bunch of AI references too. It's not that you can't use AI and reference that, but use this on top of it. Okay. That's just what I want to say about that. It's just, if you ever use AI as reference, use real life stuff as well. The AI is not going to pick up on everything either. Lots of intricate detail, lots of little things. And there's like not just there's like bunches of wires but they're also protected with a cloth and stuff. Use that. I mean, you can sculpt things in Blender, guys, and kind of line up a cylinder shape on something and then start sculpting out the cloth of it. And have fun with it, guys. It does not have to be engraved detail when you do these things right away. You can make things symmetrical, but notice a lot of this is not symmetrical. All right, like it's very asymmetrical in a lot of ways. Asymmetry introduces complexity. It means it's going to take longer and be harder to do. So if you're learning, try to keep things symmetrical as individual objects. That's useful. But you can lay them out so they're asymmetrical, so you're not overwhelmed by having to like this machine gun, for example, is going to be asymmetrical on each side to some degree. And so you would have to model each side of that and have them meet up in the middle. If it was symmetrical all the way down, on the other hand, you can still lay all these things out asymmetrical, the other parts and components. You'll have a much better time with doing that, perhaps. And still end up with a lot of interest. And then later on, when you want to push a project, you can make asymmetrical individual pieces, perhaps, or semi-asymmetrical, because you can make some parts of it asymmetrical and some parts symmetrical. So just wanted to mention that symmetry is key to speed, basically, in 3D, and why you see a lot of things that are done symmetrically, right? Right. So really cool stuff. But hey, I found something cooler, and I'll try to link this in the comments if I can. I don't know if I'll find the link to it again, but it's really cool. And we're going to check it out. Now, I did do some modeling off of this one, so I just thought it would be fun. They really do make great starting points for a sci-fi design. If you want to just study one of these by modeling it, texturing it, whatever you do, creating this first before you start working on your own things, you'll have a much more solid base. Like you can think of like empty canvas disease when you're working on something fresh and new and you have no starting point. It's pretty rough, right? If you had already modeled this out to size, to scale, you textured it, and you created it exactly the way it looks and you want it to be, if you start working on your own sci-fi design next to this, you see where that's going to go. It's going to be much easier to match the quality of this. So you can use it like a vertical slice to further progress on your own piece later on. You don't have to necessarily even use this, but use it as reference, right? Even if you made it, right? Or if you want to like buy one and purchase one off an asset store somewhere, you could do that as well and then build something next to it and try to match the quality level of it. There's nothing wrong with that. Or if you can find a free model, perhaps a photo scan, something like that could be useful. Now, we're going to jump over to my little PDF folder here where I got all kinds of stuff. There's a couple in here I want to look at. And what we're going to look at first is, these are World War II manuals, right? This is from like a Navy archive. And we'll go back to the top on this one. But these are World War II manuals that eventually were unclassified. And I imagine a lot of people have seen this by now. I imagine it hasn't been classified forever. Like it's probably been out since I've been born, and I don't even know when it was unclassified, I guess is the way to put that. But the main thing is like it starts kind of cartoonish looking, and you're like, yeah, okay, this is weird. No, it gets really good actually. So when you watch channels like, I think you should watch a channel at least like Animagraphs, right? The guy does breakdowns on different either aircraft or ships or trains or whatever the case, right? He does all kinds of stuff. When he's reference gathering, he is digging in deep on a specific like model of train or whatever the case, right? He's looking for documents like this, but about that specific object. This one's more general, right? So it's going to go over all kinds of things about battleships and heavy cruisers and light cruisers. And we're just going to scroll through it kind of fast, but I'm going to try to link you guys to this. That's really quite good. And it was a little bit hard to find, but it's like a great introduction to ships. And you can start to see if you read some of this and look at some of the graphs here, and you start looking at all um, the naming of things, you'll start to see a lot of similarities between this and Star Wars very fast as well. Um, Not necessarily the ship design itself, like the overall shape of the design, but the idea of like using towers or turrets in different ways turrets are laid out, things like that. So it can be quite useful to you just getting familiarized with the basic idea of ships. And you don't maybe have to know them in depth inside and out, but the anatomy of the ship, if you would, can be applied directly to a spaceship. So that's like the coolest thing. And so you just see more and more lists and names and information, different ships. And it's just going to keep going, guys. If you ever get a chance to go walk around on one or visit or go inside of it, in this case, this is a submarine, which I happen to have been in a diesel World War II submarine before. The thing is that it's actually better to kind of experience it firsthand and take your own photos and then also do some research on the background of it as well. So then you'll have a better understanding of like the sizes and proportions and kind of how it's lit and stuff like that on the inside. It's much easier to experience it a little bit and research it to get a better understanding of anything you're trying to create. Not just, I mean, if you're trying to create submarines, obviously, but if you can do uh, a ship like that and then pull those experiences to a sci-fi design, then do it. That's what I'm saying, basically. You have tons of reference images for yourself as well that you might not find on Google, right? So you took all the photos. If you took enough of them, then you'll be okay with them. But yeah, it just goes, guys, and you've got different kind of like hull proportions, I guess, and you can see like center islands, twin islands, and single islands. You got flush upper deck, forecastles. You got single mounts, single shields, and triple turrets, and so on and so forth. I mean, it's all kind of here, right? So single low, high, and two ones, different configurations. Just some basic introductory stuff like the tower and the bridge and all that. You can actually look at construction photos of ships like this. The whole bridge might be, the whole tower might be lifted onto the ship. It's constructed off to the side and then it gets installed on top of the base, right? So like it's kind of interesting. So the whole tower could be like one piece maybe. Or it might be brought in several sections or something, but towers, masts, and antennas, and all the other fun stuff, right? So the stacks, right? Stacks can be, you don't really think about them, but they're kind of interesting shapes sometimes, and they can be kind of complex because they put like radars and stuff on top of them or something. Perhaps I mean I've seen things like that before. The only thing is, it's probably not a good idea to do that because these things are known to catch on fire on like diesel ships at least, but there's kind of interesting videos out there of a ship blowing its stack. You've probably heard that expression before. So different bows here. So you got like all the different bows, clippers and raked and cutters and so on and so forth. Kind of interesting to see that. And then you see the aft sections here. So destroyers and cruisers and whatnot. Identification of a fighting ship, like what makes it a fighting ship. Towers, maybe the big guns would be a dead giveaway, right? Big guns. So, and that's that document there. That's not too bad. Now there's another one we're going to look at. And we're going to scroll through, and this one was all about merchant ships. So just fun things to learn about, things to think about when you're working on your next project. And there wasn't just military ships; there were also regular civilian ships as well. And these guys were fighting at sea, submarines and battleships and stuff. They didn't want to just go sinking merchant ships by accident because if you had silhouettes all across the horizon, like how do you know which one's friend or foe or whatever the case, right? You really have to spend some time identifying these, and that's what these manuals were about, anyways. I think for the most part, was helping the crew there identify different ships. It's just really well done as well. So it's just fun to look at. I mean, it's a really great um, booklet, I guess, if you would, on all the different ships out there at the time. this kind of stuff excites me. I don't know if it excites all of you, but I see a ship like this. I see a spacecraft if you mirror it. Matter of fact, I know, so we weren't going to do no drawing in 3D here, but I want to give you an example of what I'm talking about if you mirror it. Let me just throw it in a Krita real quick. A lot of you guys can probably figure out what I'm about to do, but literally mirror it, like flip it upside down. We'll do that just real quick and then move on through that one. But like you can imagine here, and I'm just going to see what happens if I duplicate it. Control T, transform, flip vertical. And I'm wondering if I could just blend them somehow. Yeah, see something. You see where you can go with these kinds of ideas? Maybe we do a blend. Maybe we do that. Maybe we just put them back to back or something. Yeah, like that. And change the blend mode. Okay. You can see how that kind of works out there a little bit. It's rather interesting stuff here we could potentially do or utilize. The other thing I was thinking of was maybe if we can get some light space between it. We really need to cut it out, I think. But if you took them and mirrored them in this manner, there's like a big hole down the middle, maybe. You can use Symmetry in your 2D apps. And we'll just color sample so it matches a little bit, but go to a new layer. You can imagine combining these together later on, right? And you could end up with some really crazy kind of designs, maybe. Put a couple like bridges across. And then of course you would want to like cut out the bottoms and stuff so that the bottoms are more interesting, but I don't know, maybe you could pull off like some kind of weird space station like that or something or something, you know. Maybe we do it the other way around. Symmetry's powerful in a lot of ways. And when you look at something like this, well, it's easy to just say, you know, it's just a book on ships. I mean, but imagine what it can be, right? You're looking for those shapes, those forms. If you can make it symmetrical, if you can stack them one next to the other as well. So, like another thing we could have did is like maybe grab this. Let's say it was still the other way around. You know, if you like stack things like this, maybe we can get it to kind of blend together better. I really want to use like a blend if, but Krita doesn't have that. So I don't know. Couldn't really pull that off. But yeah, there you go. Maybe something like that. And then you take that and you stack it vertically and have the meat in the middle, maybe. Let's cut the bottom one at the bow or the waterline, should I say. Yeah, see? And then make it a little bit more asymmetrical. And then you'd end up with something potentially kind of killer. Like we could probably shrink this a bit. You see? This is what I'm talking about, guys. And this is where maybe you don't understand why I get so excited about these. This is why, because you can do things like that. You can just start to imagine it even. You don't have to necessarily go do it right away, but it's better to do it and kind of see it, I think. And just design after design after design of useful information in here and patterns and shapes and forms and structural key points like the bridge and stacks and everything, right? Lots of silhouettes. You can kind of see which one's which and what looks cool. Like, should you do a ship that has like a big front to it and narrow back or whatever the case, right? Put some big cylinders in the side of it. So I don't know. There's all kinds of things you do. And then you play with geometric forms like you're doing architectural design and you mix it with this and it's even more fun. Okay. Like you can do a lot of stuff, guys. The towers and the midsections or the top of everything, right? They tend to be more about architecture, like architectural type design, as opposed to like the bow, right? it doesn't. These are more purpose driven, I think, down at the bottom, but it's more aesthetic driven at the top a little bit. I mean, it still has a lot of purpose, but it's not. That's why you can have things at the front or the back, and at the end of the day, it might make a difference in the operation of the ship a little bit, but it's more about preference, I would say, for the crew and when they work on the ship, right? So how it's styled and everything. It just keeps going, right? Like this is the greatest thing. Oh, we move into some sailing ships. Why not? Just fun stuff to look at. Okay. And it just keeps going. It's a product of a different time as well. So just keep that in mind. This, I love this right here. Just the lineups one after the other. Perfect. And that's it. So that's all I wanted to show you in this video and kind of browse it. We could spend all day looking at this, obviously, right? So I'll leave a link in the comments if I can find it, of course. But yeah, I'll leave a link in the comments if I can. And I'll check you guys out in the next one. All right. Take care.